Right, this is a continuation of lesson 7-4, and we are going to go back to your bell ringer. We set this up together. You guys got really good at this yesterday. You may need a little extra practice, and we'll be able to get that tonight on our homework. However, we are going to take it past this point, and we're going to solve it for x, and we're going to actually find out exactly how long this side really is. Okay. This is going to be one easy step here once we kind of learn about what this trig is and what it does. So we're going to use this example and work with this for a while. You need to continue taking whatever we do on this problem, you need to do it on your paper in front of you so you can have that as your directions and you can follow along for that for other problems. Okay. So you need your sheet of paper on your desk. Also, you need a calculator on your desk. Please go back and get one of my calculators if there's some left back there. Let me have you take a minute, and if you don't have one of my calculators, but you have a smartphone that has a calculator app on there, everybody needs to practice with the calculator on these. So you need to make sure you have a calculator. In just a second, I'll have you pause this video and let's see if we can get it worked out where everybody has some kind of calculator in their hand. If you are using one of my calculators and there's somebody in here that does not have a smartphone that has a calculator on it, could you rearrange so that student without a smartphone could have one of my calculators, that is the TI-83, and you can use your smartphone for this. Okay. In the very last kind of worst case scenario, so to speak, if we can't work it out, you need to be partnered up with somebody that has a calculator, and you need to pass it back and forth and be able to push the buttons. Okay. Very important on this. Please pause the video at this point and let's see if we can make that happen. When you get ready, please continue. It shouldn't take more than 2 minutes to get situated with that. Okay. Now, before we start working with the sine, cosine, and tangent on your calculators, there is one very, very important thing that we need to make sure we have on our calculator. Okay. Now I'm going to bring this close, and first of all, locate DC, sine, cosine, and tangent on your TI-83. Okay. If you are using some other calculator, I think in my first period of class, most of the smartphones had sine, cosine, and tangent on there. If you have a little blue scientific calculator, that also should have it on there. Okay. If you have a smartphone and you just found out that it doesn't have sine, cosine, and tangent, then you need to partner up with somebody that has one that you can practice with. Okay. Now, very important on these calculators, I want you to take it and go under mode. Okay. There is a certain process that we need to do. There's a certain thing that we have to make sure we have done on a calculator before we start this. Okay, scroll down to the third line and over to where degree is flashing. Do you see it says radian here, degree here? Okay, radian is another mathematical term, and I can't explain it all in one sentence, but when you get into algebra, pre-calculus, higher level maths, you will deal with radians. But in geometry class, we don't get that far. We always have things in degrees. Okay, 90 degrees, 53 degrees. We're always working with degree measures and not radians. Okay, so make sure you scroll over and hit enter so that degree is bolded in, radian is no longer bolded in. Okay, you have to do this on your own because it will not be like that if your calculator has been cleared. Okay? The important thing, why I'm really stressing this, is when you get your final exam, I cannot tell you to change that setting on your calculator. I cannot give you that information. So we're going to get a little practice in here before our final exam happens, but here's my suggestion. As soon as you receive your calculator on the day of the test, I would go and punch the mode button and change it to degrees. Okay, just do it right off, and after that you'll have it set. It doesn't affect anything else except for your trig, and it affects it correctly. That's how you need to have it. Okay, so really, really important. Make sure that is in degree. Once you change it on here, it will not change back unless you change it back or somebody clears your calculator. Okay, so when you get your calculator for your final exam, they are all required to be cleared out before that, and that's the reason it's really important to remember to go in and change it. Okay, I will remind you of that throughout the semester and throughout this section that we're working on this. Now, that you got it in degree. For this problem right here, our trig part is cosine of 53 degrees. I want you to ignore the right side and ignore all this stuff. Let's just kind of see what happens when you punch in cosine of 53 degrees. Now get in the habit of closing out the parentheses behind it. Okay, degree measure goes inside parentheses, and make sure you close it. Now I want you to see something here. Push enter. This is what number pops up there, 0.601815 and so forth. It's always an irrational number, goes on forever, doesn't repeat. Okay, but here's what I want you to get from this. When you do cosine of 53, that thing is just a decimal number. It's just a number. Okay, so what is this cosine, sine, tangent thing? It's a formula that's already in the calculator for you. Okay, you don't have to punch in 53 into some kind of formula. Cosine is the formula. Some really smart mathematician made a code for this and they put it in here so that we don't have to worry about what it is, but we just get to use it and to apply it to things like this so that we can find out any side length that we need. Okay, so this is something that's already been done for you, and we just get to use this cosine, sine, and tangent to help us with right triangles. All right, so that's all you need to know for this section. What I wanted to really point out is this thing right here, it's just a number. It's just a number. So don't be freaked out by the COS. It doesn't really stand for anything. It's just part of your trig. We're going to use it to help us get this side. All right, now that we know that cosine of 53, just a number, I want you to always do this as you start to solve for x. This is a fraction over here on the right side. Let's just make this left side a fraction. And remember, we just have a number on top of 1, and can't we always do that and not change the problem? We're good with that. You put any number over 1 and you haven't changed anything. Okay? I'm going to write a little side note here. Please do this on your page as well. What if you had something like 6 over 1 equals x over, I don't know, 20? Everybody in here knows how to work a problem like this. Yes? Now, I want to work it with you, and I want to break it down into the in-between step as well. Okay? So how do we work a problem like this? We can just take and cross multiply. 6 times 20, that's going to give you 120. And then do your other cross product, 1 times x. Okay. Now, I know you usually skip this step, but this is going to be important in just a minute. Look at this setup right here. What would be your next step to do in order to get x by itself? Well, the only coefficient with x here is 1. And if you divide to get rid of it, but look at this, 120 divided by 1, does that change anything? Nope. We will need to keep this in mind for a later problem, but in this situation right here, couldn't we just multiply 6 times 20, gives you 120, isn't that your answer? Yeah. Okay, now, let's take it over here. Even though there's a little cosine 53, don't let that mess you up. Don't freak out. Cosine 53 is just a number. So look at this setup here. If x is on the top of this fraction, what is going to be your process in order to solve for x? Let's just multiply whatever this cosine of 53 degrees is, multiply it by 12. And that's going to give you your answer. Because why? When you divide by 1, it's just the same thing. Okay, all right, let's do it. So here's what you can do. You guys had the cosine of 53 on your calculator. Let me get that back up there. This is what you have. If you've got that on your calculator, you can just use that number and leave it up there and then just push multiply and multiply by 12. Okay, but you don't even have to do all that stuff. Watch this. Since you know it's just a number, okay, let's just punch in cosine of 53 again. Okay, that thing, now, here's the key. You have to remember to close out your parentheses. Don't leave it open. Okay, here's cosine of 53. We're going to multiply that by 12. So on your calculator, just push times 12. There it is. Hit enter, and this is your final answer for x. Okay, write it on your paper. X equals 7.2217. Give me at least 3 decimal places. The more you have in there, the better your answer will be, the more exact your answer will be. Okay, so what did we just find? We just found what x is. 7.222. And that is the length of this side of that right triangle. Okay, now let me ask you this. Does this number make sense in real life? Let's take a look at what we have on this triangle. Okay. What did it tell you about this side here? 12. What do we know that side is? The hypotenuse, yes? Well, what do you know about the hypotenuse of a right triangle? It is always the longest side. Now, you should know that. Okay, so think about what you know. Hypotenuse is always the longest side. And look at this, 7.222. Is that number smaller than 12? Yes. And should it be? Yes. What happens if you get an answer here and you get something like 46? You know you made a mistake because 46 is way bigger than 12, and 12's got to be your longest side because it's the hypotenuse. Okay, so use what you know. Think about it. Think about things that you know. This makes sense in real life, so that will give us a pretty good indication that we did the problem correctly. Okay, there's that example. I'm going to stop this video, and there's some more videos that I'm going to make. If you have some questions about this, feel free to talk to your teammates when the video is not rolling, and then see if you can answer each other's questions.